Hi, thanks for joining me. I want to start with a test for you. I call it the fly test. Imagine this for a moment. It's a sunny day. Fly flies into your kitchen through an open window, has a buzz around the kitchen, finds some crumbs for lunch, buzzes back out again. Next day, fly comes in, buzzes around, can't find any crumbs, so has a look around the rest of the house. Nothing, decides to leave, goes back out the window to where it came from. However, what the fly doesn't know is that while it was buzzing around the house, someone shut the window. Now, it may surprise you, but flies don't have a clue what glass is. They have no perception of glass at all. And so that fly is flying flat out towards what it thinks is an open window, and of course it goes straight into the glass. Must be quite a shock. Enough of a shock, you would think, to not do it again and again and again and again, because that fly just keeps bashing its head against the glass, trying to get out. Can't understand it. By the way, there's a great book called Who Moved My Cheese, which has a similar principle. It's more relevant today than it's ever been. Get it, read it. Promise you, you'll love it. Now, that fly is repeating a behavior over and over and over again that is getting it nowhere. That's the fly test. Are you repeating behaviors that are getting you nowhere, but repeating them again and again and again? You see, there's something else about this that's relevant. The window was closed the next day. See, that's what Who Moved My Cheese is all about as a book. Yesterday, the window was open. Today, it's closed. It's a different world. It's a different environment. But if you keep doing the same things, you're not going to get the results you want. And you know, the frustration is that if the fly would just turn around, the door's open behind it, and there is a way out, but it's got to do something different. That's the fly test, because things have changed. The world's changed. The environment's changed. Our businesses have changed. The team has changed. The client, your guest, has changed. The costs of running a business have changed. Marketing has changed. Everything is changing, except perhaps the way we're actually leading the business and the team. There's nothing more frustrating than trying to bash a square peg into a round hole. Working harder than ever, doing all the stuff that used to work. Having a busy salon, but not making any money, no profit. It's bloody hard. And it wears you down. God, if I had £1 for every time a salon owner said to me, I've just lost my mojo. I get it. But if you've lost your motivation, no wonder the team are losing theirs. It's like a negative cycle, and there's only one way out of a cycle, and that's to break it. Not by working harder, not by pushing more, not by repeating what isn't working, and certainly it needs more than just a positive attitude. Listen, why does anybody start a business? I believe it's 2 reasons: personal freedom and financial independence. How's that going then? We need change. If you want things to be different, you've got to do something different. But I can hear you. I can hear you shouting at the screen, but I'm trying. I'm doing things different. I don't know what to do. What do I do? Yeah, I get it. I understand. Listen, I've got some good news for you. There's actually only 2 things that need to change. 2, that's it. Well, whenever someone says there's good news, there's always not so good news. What's the not so good news? I will never, not now, and I promise you, never in the future, I will never promise you easy. It's not easy. Nobody ever said it was easy. But everyone is offering easy. You know, everybody's offering on social media the easy way. There is no easy way. The easy way to lose weight, the easy way to make money, the easy way to make your salon successful. Success in anything you do comes from following a trusted, proven formula and then turning it into a repeatable, consistent system. Isn't that the same for losing weight, for making money? Well, it's no different for turning your salon into a fantastic business, the business that you deserve. But that takes time and commitment. Stop following people who are promising you instant results with unrealistic promises and make a commitment to real change. Real change. Change that will make a difference. Anyway, I'm Alan Austin Smith, and from the day I started as a wee little 16-year-old at Vidal Sassoon in Bond Street, I've been in love with this wonderful, passionate and creative business of ours. Today, my passion is really simple: helping salon professionals like you to achieve that personal freedom and financial independence I mentioned. I created the Fantastic Hairdresser brand 35 years ago, and in that time, over 100,000 salon professionals have sat in our audiences around the world. Over 3,000 salon owners and managers have completed our programs, and the Fantastic Hairdresser book is the best-selling book in the salon industry. So let's not waste any time, shall we? Join me for the next 20-25 minutes as I share with you the 2 things that have to change. Okay, here's something interesting. So many of the challenges that we're facing right now are actually symptoms. Symptoms of the problems, the changes that we need to make. And there's 2, remember? So let's look at the first one. And the first one I call passionate profitability. So what do I mean by that? First of all, let's break it down. Let's look at profitability. There's a difference between profit and profitability. And the biggest difference is profit you pay tax on, profitability you don't pay tax on. So that's good. So let me explain it a bit more. Profit, we all understand, is what's left. You pay all your bills, etc. Your accountant says to you, you made this much profit, you've got to pay that much tax. It's simple. So what's profitability? Profitability is when you are a profitable enough business, there is enough income for you to not only make profit, but also reinvest into your business. So, for example, let's say, I'm plucking these numbers out of the air, but let's say that your costs for running your business are $80,000 a year, and you put $100,000 into the till, which means you paid your costs, $80,000, $20,000 profit. But what if you put $120,000 in? You could take $40,000 profit, or you could take $20,000 profit still and reinvest 20. And that reinvestment I call profitability. Your business is profitable enough for you to reinvest. So what do I mean by that? I mean that you're able to pay well. You're able to reward your team well. You're able to train them well. You're able to do great marketing and invest in marketing. You're able to afford the higher costs. Nobody likes higher costs, but you can afford them if you're a profitable business. And then finally, what about you? What about your salary? A profitable business needs to be able to pay you properly. And then on top of that, to still make a good profit from the business. So what do I mean by the word passionate? Well, that's simply me saying you don't have to sacrifice your passion to be profitable. I think a lot of salon owners feel that. We're a passionate creative industry. And I thought, if I start getting into the numbers and the business, I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. And, I'm moving away from what I love. I get it. Remember, I told you, I fell in love with this business as a 16-year-old. I may not stand behind the chair anymore, but my heart and mind still belong to the hairdresser in me. I get it. I understand it. I understand you. However, after 35 years of coaching in this industry, it's absolutely clear to me that profitability starts with passion. It starts with the heart. You can have both. In fact, you need both. You can't have profit without passion. It just doesn't work. It really doesn't work. You'll lose your team. You'll never be able to keep your team. But you can't have passion without profit either. That's burnout. And I think that's where we are right now. So listen, the first change is to become passionately profitable. And it all starts with knowing where you're going. How can you expect to get somewhere if you don't know where somewhere is? That's my question for you. How can you expect to get somewhere if you don't know where somewhere is? I'll tell you where somewhere is. It has to be a profitable business. It has to be something that you're building. There are 5 stages of a small business. I always describe it like a ladder. At the bottom of the ladder is break even. You're paying the bills. No profit. The next step up is you're paying the bills, you've got some profit. So that's 80,000 bills, 20,000 profit. Step 3 on the ladder is the one I just described. 80,000 costs, 20,000 profit, but you've still got 20,000 profitability to reinvest in the business. And that will take the business forward like the snowball rolling. Step 4 on the ladder is now high profit, let's say 50,000 instead of 20,000, but you're also profitable. So 80,000 cost, 20,000 reinvested, that's the profitable bit. And then now the snowball's been gathering and you've now got 50,000 profit. And then right at the top of the ladder, very high profit, let's say 100,000 in a profitable business. So 80,000, 20,000 invested, but you're now making 100,000. Like I said, I'm plucking these numbers out of the air, but you get the idea. But it's at step 5 of the ladder that you move in a completely different direction, because it's when you've got that higher level of profit, you're able to do what every wealthy person I've ever seen in this business, and of course wealth means different things to different people, but everybody I've seen that has achieved wealth in this industry has done it this way. And that is, they've reinvested in the business, they've generated the snowball, they've increased profits, and then when they get to a level where they've got more than they need or want from profit, I mean, yeah, you can party it if you want, but what I would suggest you do is you say, I'm now going to take, let's say 50, because that's what I took last year perhaps, but I've got another 50 now, and I'm going to use that to reinvest in me. And however you do that, I'm not an investment advisor, whether it's in property or shares or whatever you do, but you're now investing in your and your family's future. That's now a very successful business. So my question to you is, where are you on the ladder? Where are you on that ladder? You know, if you're at the bottom 1 or 2 steps, it's okay, but just focus on the next step. All I've got to do is move to the next step. So if I'm on step 2, I'm making a small profit. Well, what have I got to do to start to become profitable and make a small profit? And so on. Look, let me tell you a little story about a wonderful lady called Siobhan. And Siobhan has been coming to seminars and programs with us for a long, long time. And when she first started, her business had grown organically, and all of a sudden she had loads of staff, and she was busy and so on. But she realized she didn't know how to run a business. So she came on one of our seminars, and then another one, and then she joined one of our programs, and she's been very committed in terms of the education that she's put herself through to grow and change her business. She's taken on the exact model I just gave you, and gradually built, stepped up the ladder, gone up and up and up. She called me the other day, literally she called me a few weeks ago, and she said, Alan, my accountant's just told me that I've got to spend some money because I've got too much profit and I'm going to get a really high tax bill. Well, that's a nice problem to have. She's now got a very successful salon. She's now got a school, but also she's followed the advice right the way through. She's at step 5 of the ladder because she's also bought the freehold of the salon and school. So she's really in a great position, not just with her business, but herself and her family personally. So now let's look at the second change. The first one is we've got to become passionately profitable. And like I said, nobody said it was easy. In case you're thinking, well, it's not going to be easy, Alan. I did say right at the beginning, nobody said it was easy. But what is easy is one step. Start taking steps towards becoming passionately profitable. Of course, it's not going to happen overnight, but at least it's something you can control and something you can work towards instead of worrying and stressing and dealing with the anxiety of a world that you can't control. So what's the second change? The second change is engaged leadership. Engaged leadership. What's the most critical asset in your business? I'll tell you, your team. Everything that you need to happen in your business, in your salon, happens via the team. Well, if they're the most critical factor, then that means you're the most critical factor because you're the leader. But this is a great quote I heard, and I've used it for years. I love it. The archer doesn't blame the target when they miss. The archer doesn't blame the target when they miss. What does that mean? It means they understand if their arrows aren't hitting the target, their aim is wrong. Well, trust me, someone's moved the target. We're leading a team. We're running a business in a completely new environment. Listen, we all have a moan about young people today. But it's not them. It's the environment. Salon owners tell me, the youngsters today, they've got no passion. Wait a minute. Young people are passionate. They're really passionate about diversity, about respect, about the planet, about fitness and mental health, and obviously loads of other stuff that isn't so noble. But you can't say they're not passionate. They're just not passionate about what you want them to be passionate about. When a salon owner says to me that my team has no passion, I say, why do you want them to be passionate? And they look at me strangely and say, well, I need them to engage in the business, in the industry. Okay. That's where we're going wrong. It's not passionate people who engage. It's engaged people who become passionate. Think about that. It's not passionate people who engage. It's engaged people who become passionate. That distinction is critical, because if you're waiting for people to be passionate, if you're hoping that they're going to be passionate, what you're doing is you're expecting them to be passionate, which makes it their responsibility, which in their life is fine. But this isn't what we're talking about. We're talking about you and your business, and you and your business needs their passion, which is quite different. When you realize that engaging people is what makes them passionate, then it becomes your responsibility as a leader. Leadership that creates engagement. Leadership that develops a strong culture that people feel they can belong to. Leadership that listens and adapts. And leadership that ensures that the team feel like they're on a journey to somewhere better for them as well. Understanding that the success of the salon means success for them too. But I just used the word journey. Where are you going? Because if you don't know where you're going, how can you expect them to join you? Leadership, by definition, needs followers. So where are you leading? Because if you don't know where you want to be in the next 5 years, if you don't know what your business looks like in 5 years' time, how can you have a clear direction? And if you don't have that, how can you expect them to engage with it? We need a completely new leadership model for a different world, which means we've got to stop doing what we used to do, the fly test, what used to work, and to recognize that we're in a completely different environment. Now, there's an important point I want to make here. I'm not saying that we have to meet them where they are. That's not what I'm saying. But we have to bend over backwards and do whatever they want. A lot of leaders are starting to feel like that, and even are starting to act like that. No, that's not what I'm saying, and that doesn't work. But neither does staying rooted in the past, the old ways. I remember being asked on a business course many, many years ago, a leadership style course, do people do things for me because they have to or because they want to? Do people do things for you because they have to or because they want to? It's quite clear to understand the difference, isn't it? See, the old style of leadership was directing, which is have to. I'm the boss, do as you're told. The new model is influencing, which is want to. And yeah, that's more work. The old style was easier, I can hear you saying. You just told people what to do and they did it. But it doesn't work. Not anymore. So yes, it takes more work, but hang on, isn't that our job? Aren't we leaders? Aren't we leading a business, leading a team? Earlier I mentioned personal freedom and financial independence. And the first change, passionately profitable, clearly impacts financial independence. It should give you more personal freedom. However, if achieving the financial independence comes without the commitment of the team, then the personal freedom will never be there. It will always be on you. This lady, I love this lady, Gemma. She was running a nice business. It was ticking over, paying her a salary, not really making much more money than that, but she was fine. However, she wanted more than a salary. She loves traveling, and she's always dreamt of traveling the world. But how can she? Number one, she's putting most of the money in the till. She's the biggest taker. So the salon struggles when she's not there. And even when she just goes on a week or so's holiday, she's being messaged all the time. Nobody's taking responsibility for things. In COVID, she decided, she thought, okay, am I going to get out or get on with it? That was her decision. And she decided to get on with it. So she got back, she looked at everything she'd learned over the years that possibly hadn't put into action. She started learning more and developing herself. She was doing courses with us and so on. And it dawned on her that the one thing she wasn't doing was developing her team, empowering them, engaging them, influencing them, inspiring them, giving them the responsibility, including them, sharing with them. So when she started to do this, it didn't happen overnight, but when she started to do this, she started to notice a change. And you know what the biggest change she noticed? That when she started doing that, she found that people wanted to be involved. When she was doing all herself, it didn't feel like they wanted to be involved. Well, of course not, because she wasn't giving them the opportunity. But once she started doing that, things started to change. I'll say it again. It didn't happen overnight. However, she built a great team. She wrote a list of 100 countries that she wanted to visit. This was only a few years ago. This was after COVID. She's on 76 now, country 76. And the only reason she's been able to do that, to have that personal freedom that she craved, was because she built a great team. And she did that with engaged leadership. That's the second change. Listen, those two stories I've just shared with you, both of those businesses are in the same industry, ours. They have the same challenges, but with different results. So what's the difference? Well, you know what? I see this difference in successful people and successful businesses over and over again. 3 things. Number 1, responsibility. If you want change, you have to change something. And it's no good pointing the finger of blame at the government, at the kids today, at the world, what's going on, etc., etc. All of which contribute. I'm not saying that, but you have no control over those things. Focus on what you have control over. That's what taking responsibility is. Knowledge is the second one. What worked before doesn't work today. A commitment to learning isn't a choice anymore. And then finally, action. Because learning without action won't change a thing. But it's not just action. It's consistent action. It's keeping it going. Now, I can't help you with those 3 things in just a short video. But hopefully what I have done is to give you some clarity, because it's a muddy world out there with so much conflicting advice. You know, I've seen people teaching stuff to the salon industry that I used to teach 10 years ago that even I don't teach anymore because it's not relevant. It was useful and relevant at the time, but not now, in a different time. You see, one final story for you. Rob and Katie, they run a multi-salon group and they've been very successful. And I did a lot of work with them in the early days in helping them put in place the structures, the systems, the leadership styles and everything else that they were going to do. And they did it, and they built a fantastic business. They were reaching a time in the business when they were starting to think about themselves and their future, and retirement, inverted commas, and what they were going to do. Are they going to sell the business? What are they going to do? And so they started looking closely at the business. And what they found and what they saw shocked them, because they'd taken their eye off the ball a little bit. And you know what? I often say that that the most dangerous time in a business is when you're doing well, because that's when you take your eye off the ball. And they'd done that. And without realizing it, very quietly, slowly, as things had changed, they realized that the systems, the structures, the way they lead the team and train the team and everything else They wasn't working at the same level because things had changed. So the first thing they did was take responsibility. And they called me. And they said, Alan, you helped us get to this point. Well, things have changed. We need to start again almost. The second thing they did was they employed me and we worked together for a year. And they took knowledge on board. We looked at what wasn't working and binned it. We kept what was working. And we added in new systems, new structures, new ways of measuring, new ways of doing things. And today, because they did the third thing, they took action, they're more successful today than they were beforehand. More profit, higher average bill, more clients. And of course, they're now able to, in a fabulously positive way, look forward to what the next few years are going to be like for them personally. Let me finish with a question for you. Does your business look like a business 5 years in the future or 5 years in the past? Because that's where we can help. Listen, you can't change the past, but you can change what happens now to change the future. Look, if any of this has resonated with you, the next step is really simple. Just book a short call with us. Let's look at where you are right now, what your specific challenges are, and what has to change, so that we can guide you in the right direction. And if we can help, we'll show you how. And if we can't, you're still going to leave with more clarity about your future. You've got nothing to lose. Because what happens if you don't change? The same conversations, the same frustrations, the same pressure, still working harder than you should be, still not getting the return that you want, and still carrying everything on your shoulders. And suddenly another year has gone past, and you're in the exact same place. Responsibility, knowledge, action. So if you're serious about change, then take responsibility for change. Just book the call. Remember, if you want change, you've got to change something. Thank you.